think this is a pretty good summation of my reaction to the newest A24 horror film, Men.
What the is going on?
Men was written and directed by Alex Garland, the filmmaker behind films like Ex Machina and Annihilation. This film stars Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear and tells the story of a woman trying to find peace and solidarity in a small village out in England after a terrible tragedy occurs to her. But pretty quickly, she realizes things are quite weird and has to get out of the situation as fast as she can. Now, if you know me, you know I'm not a fan of experimental films or films that forego telling a basic story with well-written characters in favor of symbolism and metaphors. And boy, does this film annoy the hell out of me. If you're someone that loves these kinds of A24 horror films where you get more symbolism and metaphors with little to no explanation instead of a well-written story with good characters, then this film is definitely for you. But before I start tearing into this film too much, let me go over the positives. On the technical side, this film is fucking fantastic. The eerie atmosphere Garland builds with expert cinematography, sound design, score, and editing are some of the best I've seen in a horror film in quite some time. You truly feel uneasy for most of the film, and that's not an easy thing for a horror film to do. On top of that, the fantastic performances from Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear doing multiple roles just helps sell the anxiety and fear Jessie's character is feeling. Were it not for the film getting lost in its own symbolism and metaphors, this would have been a really damn good horror film. Strange enough, for the first 2/3 of the film, I was actually really liking it and being intrigued by what was going on. The film didn't give you many answers by this point and was leaving a lot up to interpretation, but not so much in a way that was annoying me. But then, the third act begins, and that's when it all comes crashing and burning. This is one of the most frustrating third acts I have ever seen in a film. Where before there was good suspense built up and enough intrigue as to what was going on, once you get to the third act, all suspense disappears because of how little is explained. The film constantly is making you question, who is this guy and why does every guy in the village look like him? Why does she seem to not notice this? What's the significance of the apple tree? Why is what you'll keep asking yourself as this overly drawn out third act plays out, and by the end, you will be left more confused than you were at the start of the film. Also, if you're squeamish in any kind of way, if you don't like blood and gore or freaky ass body horror, do not go and see this, because the things this third act does, I will never get out of my head. To this day, it continues to boggle me why so many filmmakers would rather make films that are entirely symbolic and filled with metaphors rather than give us something so we can understand what they're going for. Rather than make me think more deeply about the film, the symbolism and metaphors just frustrate me and pull me out as the film goes on and on and on. Having symbolism in horror is never a bad thing, but there's films and shows that know how to do it very well. But here, it's just another example as to why I don't like these kinds of films. Had this film stuck its third act and gave us any kind of answers or just made any fucking sense, then I would probably recommend this. But as it is, if you're not a fan of these kinds of horror films or want to see a horror film that makes just any goddamn sense, strong performances and good atmosphere are not enough for me to say go see this. If this somehow sounds like your kind of film, then by all means, go and have a good time. For me, I don't plan on seeing this again anytime soon and will instead be going to bleach out my eyes to try to get the imagery from the third act out of my head. I'm going to give Men a 5 out of 10.